Hello, and welcome to Breaking It All Down. I'm Count Zero. It's been a while since I did my first video for recommending tabletop RPGs based on the video games you like. Well, some new games have come out since, or been announced since then. And so now's as good a time as any for the second outing. Okay, actually, a lot of games have come out or been announced since then, but still, now's a great time to do another one of these videos. Plus, this should, knock on wood, be coming out before Christmas, so you have an opportunity to order some of these in time for the holiday of your choice to take advantage of discounts or to gift them to friends or loved ones or that sort of thing, or people who you want to run a game for you, or people who you would like to run a game for because you want to get them a copy so they can create characters as well. Anywho, we've got 5 games once again lined up, so let's get started. If you like sleeping dogs, you may like Feng Shui 2. Various video games over the years have attempted to emulate the style of Hong Kong martial arts films, from Jade Empire emulating the wuxia genre, Rise to Honor emulating the martial arts films of Jet Li in particular, and Stranglehold emulating the heroic bloodshed genre in particular by being a sequel to the John Woo film Hard Boiled. In my view, the video game that does the Hong Kong action film genre emulation the most, and the best, at least of this recording anyway, is Sleeping Dogs. In the tabletop RPG space, probably the game that also best emulates this genre, or this sort of umbrella genre of film, is Feng Shui, designed by Robin D. Laws and published by Atlas Games. The most recent edition of this, appropriately titled Feng Shui 2, came out earlier, I believe this year, following a successful Kickstarter. In the game, you play a party of characters based on archetypes from action films, all variety of action films, effectively running through, well, a bunch of action films created by the GM. The setting of the game is based around the Secret War, fought by factions from various eras in history, and in some cases even alternate timelines, seeking to control the flow of magic in various eras, including the modern day, to change the world to something that's more of their liking. What this means effectively is this serves as a framework to allow the GM to have the players fight eunuch sorcerers in feudal China in one adventure, mutated warlords in the post-apocalyptic wasteland the next adventure, and pulp Nazis in the one after that. This fits into Sleeping Dogs with the DLC expansions of like Nightwear in North Point, bringing supernatural elements like Jiangxi or hopping vampires into the mix. Or stuff like the Tournament, which is basically straight up a reference to the film Enter the Dragon. Now, if you don't want to include some of these other elements of the Secret War, the supernatural elements, the weird science elements, that's okay. One of the nice things about tabletop RPGs, it is generally easier to take stuff out of an RPG than to re-add stuff or put stuff in that wasn't there before, if you're unfamiliar with the game mechanics, if you want to have things be balanced and not have what you're adding effectively break the game. I guess additionally, the game itself is fairly simple to play, with all the rules you need to run the game in one book, and in some cases even a small, like, few-page printout basically covering the important bits of the rules that you can hand out to players. And dice-wise, the game only requiring 2 different 6-sided dice, one a different color than the other, per player. And that's not hard to get a hold of. You basically just buy one thing of red dice, or like semi-transparent red dice, and one thing of your usual white dice, and you're set. Feng Shui 2 is currently available as a PDF from DriveThru RPG. If you like the Left 4 Dead series, you might enjoy All Flesh Must Be Eaten. Now, this pick could probably work with any other survival horror game with zombies, but I'm going with Left 4 Dead here because of 2 different elements. One is, basically each campaign of a Left 4 Dead game for 1 and 2 is effectively a RPG campaign, in the sense that you have a consistent series of characters going from level to level to level, or to put in RPG terms, adventure to adventure to adventure. There's no mechanical advancement. It basically still works. The second is an aspect called the AI director, game mechanic. Now, in particular, this is because the AI director is effectively a game master. Each level of the game, again, it's an RPG scenario, and the AI director, as game master, serves to keep the game fun, the session fun, by making sure that there are resources as needed to keep the players in the game, to kind of fudge things, so that if the players do something stupid, their characters can still die. There's still the risk of danger and failure in the game, but things are kept in a situation where you don't have a moment where the players go, we have screwed ourselves into a situation where we can no longer continue. Let's stop playing. This isn't fun anymore. Which, in video games, the whole concept of rage quitting has always kind of been a part of the thing. Okay, I can't continue from here. I'm just going to hit reset on my NES. I'm going to go to the menu on my Xbox 360 or on my PC and reset the game from there, quit out of the game and come back in from there. An RPG session, because it is a social event, you have a whole bunch of people together, the sort of, I wouldn't say the risk of the rage quit, but the problems with the rage quit are much higher. So it's definitely a situation that's more of an issue in a tabletop RPG campaign. And if you're playing Left 4 Dead, you are to a certain degree aware of the AI director and the basically dice fudging or scenario fudging that's being done behind the scenes to keep things fun. And thus, it's kind of prepared you in a way for the idea of running an RPG game. Of, okay, I want to fudge the resources available to keep the players in the game, to keep the players having fun while still maintaining a degree of difficulty. Now, aside from that, and this just aspect of RPGs in general that All Flesh Must Be Eaten represents, the other bit that's worth mentioning is basically All Flesh Must Be Eaten is a game that provides a great deal of customization for your zombies, which fits with the fact that Left 4 Dead has a variety of zombies. The tank, I forget the name of the one with the tongue that can drag you snipe you from across the map. All the different types of zombies in All Flesh Must Be in Left 4 Dead can be replicated in All Flesh Must Be Eaten. And as opposed to, say, the Resident Evil games, where they've gotten kind of more cinematic and, to a certain degree, kind of silly with your zombie suplexing in Resident Evil 5 and that sort of stuff. Your roundhouse kicking zombies in Resident Evil 4. In All Flesh Must Be Eaten, the core book, the main rule book, it uses Eden Studios' regular unisystem, which is kind of more gritty, more dangerous, has more of a sense of peril, which works with what you're trying to do in terms of genre emulation and tonal emulation if you're trying to run something like Left 4 Dead. That said, there are a whole bunch of other source books for All Flesh Must Be Eaten, which expand the tone of the game and make things a little more cinematic and a little more silly. So if you want to run something like the later Resident Evil games, for example, you can do that. You just need to get a few more books. But I was thinking here, for this recommendation, of stuff where one book out of the gate basically gives you what you need to know. So this is a game where if you want a gritty, realistic zombie game, and not realistic isn't the right term for zombies, but a survival horror game that meshes tonally with the Left 4 Dead series, the core rulebook from All Flesh Must Be Eaten is the perfect place to start. All Flesh Must Be Eaten is available on PDF from drivethrurpg.com. If you like the Fallout series, you may enjoy Gamma World. There is, frankly, no scarcity of post-apocalyptic RPGs. One of the main junctures of Feng Shui 2 is a Mad Max or Fist of the North Star style post-apocalyptic wasteland. The game Twilight 2000 has you playing NATO troops trying to make their way home in Europe after World War III left you cut off. And the Morrow Project RPG puts you as members of a Brotherhood of Steel-esque organization, predating the Fallout games, that sets out to preserve knowledge after the fall of civilization. However, all of these are generally fairly mundane in their tone. Twilight 2000 and Moro Project are particularly known for their very gritty realism. And Feng Shui 2, while it is certainly a cinematic action RPG, and there are some elements of Gonzo to their post-apocalyptic setting with their sort of... Actually, there's a lot of Gonzo to their post-apocalyptic setting. It's almost a little too Gonzo to a certain degree, because it's trying to be a very action movie as opposed to just something like Fallout, where it's meant to be as much a tense game of survival as it is kind of crazy wasteland action. There is a happy medium, though, and that happy medium lies with the Gamma World RPG. Gamma World is a setting that's been around for a very long time. It was one of the first RPGs put out by TSR, following Dungeons & Dragons, Boot Hill, and Gangbusters, and Metamorphosis Alpha. Gamma World basically was survival in the irradiated wasteland with addition of mutants of all various strengths and sizes, all with various powers, in many ways sort of making it as much inspired by Thundar the Barbarian as with Mad Max. And the game setting, as time has gone on, while some elements have gotten more emphasized over others, has still kind of maintained that kind of tense survival in the wastelands with a significant amount of radiation mutation related crazy. And those Gonzo elements, I feel, were definitely carried over into the Fallout games from Gamma World more than they have in any other aspect of the post-apocalyptic genre, from film to novels to anything else like that. Now, the Gamma World games themselves tend to run a bit more of a Gonzo than Fallout, but as I mentioned before, under the discussion of Feng Shui and the Sleeping Dogs, and how those two connect to each other, it is easier to take mechanics out than put them in, so long as the core underlying mechanics of the game tonally fit with what you're trying to do for the genre you're trying to emulate, or the video game you're trying to emulate. And Gamma World is right there in terms of the mechanic representation, the tonal synergy, for lack of a better term, with the Fallout games in terms of the lethality and the tension, while also having room for the degree of kind of crazy and kind of darkly comic that the Fallout games have, without going into the crazy and super cinematic action-y of, say, of trying to run a Fallout game in Feng Shui. I mean, you can do it, but it wouldn't necessarily work. So, as far as editions that are currently available, the one that's easiest to get a hold of right now is Gamma World 6th Edition, which was designed with the D20 modern rules in mind, and all of this is available from drivethrurpg.com on PDF. If you're familiar with Dungeons & Dragons 3rd Edition or 3.5 or Pathfinder, the mechanics are similar enough, and it gives you a pretty good jumping on point, where you understand, okay, this is using a lot of mechanics and rolls with the D20, and a lot of that sort of stuff. There's feats, the saves are going to be the same, that sort of thing. And so you'll be able to hit the ground running fairly well and understand what you need to do mechanically without having to learn a whole new system from scratch. This also means if you do want to fiddle with the mechanics and start creating your own Fallout-related stuff in terms of the Protectatrons and that sort of thing, or the Brotherhood of Steel power armor, you're in a good spot to start making that stuff without being too sort of in the dark as far as for how this relates to the mechanics and what's broken and what isn't broken, or what is too underpowered for what you're trying to do. Again, if you're interested in Gamma World, 6th edition is currently available on PDF from drivethrurpg.com.